thanks for coming, and I have just a little gift for you. So if you just would take one of these, because I think these stories, really the whole book of the Bible is God's love story. But do we really want the children to get the idea of God's love? So I'll plunk this out once in a while in the story, because I think that's really what we're seeing of how he helped them and showed his love to them. So if I forget to put them up, you'll do it, right? In your class. That's kind of the way it goes. Okay. So, boys and girls, the last time you were together, you had this story about how the Israelites, 2 million of them were helped across the Red Sea. They were saved from Pharaoh and his army. And I wish I could have 2 million little people here or something, but I can't. You can't even imagine what 2 million is. It's so many. I just pretend you could just imagine these are God's children, 2 million of them that he is caring for and just loves them so much. So once in a while, Solange's going to put this up, because I think that's really, he just loves his people. He wants them to obey them, and he's got a lot for them. So these people are just really happy that they got through the Red Sea. And so now they have been traveling along and along for 3 days. And they have a little pack, a little leather pack with water in it, most of them, and that's gone. And they're still traveling along, and there's no hint of water around. And they're probably wondering, now what? Now what's going to do? So, boys and girls, the story I tell is true, and I'm telling it right from my Bible. I'll try to just stick right with my Bible, and you'll see that I'm not making it up. Because if you hear some of this, you're going to say, Miss Lenser made this up. But I didn't. So it says, when Moses led the Israel through the Red Sea and went through the desert, for 3 days they traveled without finding water. And then finally they came to a place, and it's going to be hard for me to not have my back to you.
Don't worry.
Because otherwise I can't do
No
it.
worries, no worries.
We can move that over.
Let's see what's here. Maybe we can move this up if everything doesn't fall. Would that be a little better?
That's fine.
Okay.
Thank you.
So they're really happy, because here they were following this cloud, this amazing gift of God, this cloud, that God was in the cloud and he was telling them where to go. And the whole crowd was following, and Moses was their leader. And they got to this body of water, and they were so happy. But then when they started drinking the water, it was terrible. It was bitter, and the name of the place, if they would have known that, was called Merah, which means bitter. And they couldn't drink it. It just tasted so bad. So then Moses, after they said to Moses, what in the world are we going to drink? What are we going to drink? You brought us here, and we can't drink this water, and the kids are thirsty, we're all thirsty. What are we going to do? And then Moses talked to God, and he asked for help. He said, oh, God, what am I going to do? And God said, Moses, you just go get this stick I gave you, and you get this stick, and you throw it in the water. And he did. What a strange thing. You're going to say to me, that can't be. But this is a miracle. This was one of God's amazing things. And the water just tasted delicious. And then the people drank it, and they said, oh, this is an amazing, amazing thing. And while they were there, I can give you an idea that there really were more than just these few. We can imagine there were 1 million people gathered there. And then at that place, God said to them, now, if you listen carefully to the voice of the Lord your God, and you do what's right in his eyes, if you pay attention to his commands, then you won't get those diseases like the people in Egypt did. I will take care of you, and I will keep you well. And so those people knew that they had to obey what Moses said after God told them what to say. Then time to move along and around. And how did they know? Tell me, how did they know when it was time to move? How did they know when it was time to move? They had the cloud, right. And then they were led to this place, a beautiful place. Look, it's got 12 palm trees. It's called Elam. It is so beautiful, and the people all gathered around there. There were 70 palm trees and 12 springs. Here's one. That water came from the ground, and they could drink, and they could drink. And so God so lovingly brought them to a place. They followed the cloud, took them to that place, and they could drink all they wanted. And it was such a wonderful gift of God of showing his love. And they got help, didn't they? Because you know, Mrs. Adamar or whoever, one of these Mrs. or Mrs. Told you, help is what we're talking about today. So we got to be watching for that, right? So then the cloud moved again, and it just God kept showing his wonderful love by moving this cloud, and they would guide it, and they would stop to the next place. Well, they got to this next place called the Wilderness of Sin. Now, I don't know if I want to deal with that whole name of that place. Maybe you people.
The wilderness.
What?
They just came to an area of wilderness.
The wilderness is what I would do. So they got to the wilderness, and the people again realized that now this is another problem. Not only were they thirsty, but now they are hungry. And if you kids just think a minute about when you were thirsty. Now you can do this in the introduction or whatever, but I just thought, when you're thirsty. When? Can you shut your eyes a minute and think when you were so thirsty you could hardly stand it? You were playing out, you're at the beach, you don't have your water bottle, and you're driving home, and you say to your mom, I am dying of thirst. I am so thirsty. Yeah, but you didn't take your water bottle. No, that's true. But I am so thirsty. Can we stop at McDonald's? No, we can't stop. I'm so thirsty. Can you feel that, how that would feel when you're so thirsty? Now open your eyes a minute. And can you think of a time when your stomach almost hurt when you're hungry? Sometimes it almost hurts, not a real pain, but you think, I am really, and you might say something, I'm starving, I'm so hungry. So now that's the problem they have here. They had water, but now they moved on, and now they're in this wilderness, and they are hungry. And now they're complaining and grumbling against Moses and Aaron, their leaders. They said, oh, if we only died by God's hand in Egypt, because if we were in Egypt, we sat around the pots of meat and we could eat all the good food, all the food we wanted, and you brought us into this desert to starve to death. This whole entire assembly, all 2 million of us, we're all going to starve to death. Oh, they really forgot, didn't they, about what kind of a God, loving God they had? But that was so hard for Moses to hear. And then, but the Lord said to Moses, and I just think it's so wonderful how Moses always goes to God for help. And that's what we can do too. And anytime we can go to God for help, because that's where our help comes from. God is our refuge and our strength, our ever-present help in trouble. The verse is around here somewhere. That's a verse for today. And he goes to God for help. And then the Lord said to Moses, I am going to rain down bread from heaven for you. Rain down bread from heaven? How is this going to be? And then God said, Moses, and this is what the people are going to have to gather enough for every day, and then I'm going to test them to see if they listen to my instructions. And on the 6th day, they've got to gather enough for the Sabbath day. So Moses and Aaron went to the people and they said, in the evening, you're going to know that it is the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt. And in the morning, you're going to see the glory of the Lord. You are going to get some help. Who are you really grumbling against, you people? You're not really grumbling against us. You're grumbling against God. And then Moses said to Aaron, you say to the entire community, to all those people, come before the Lord, for he has heard your grumbling. So what does that mean? Come before the Lord. Do you think that they maybe gathered and just said, oh, God, we do need your help. We're sorry we grumbled. We don't know, but they came before the Lord. And that's what we have to do too when we need help, when we have some problem. We have to come before the Lord, and he will hear us. The Lord said to Moses, I've heard the grumbling. Now you tell them that at twilight, that means when the sun is going down, they're going to have meat. And in the morning, you're going to be filled with bread. And then you will know that I am the Lord your God. And so the sun came down. I wish I could make a nice picture of the sun going down. But the sun went down. And when the sun went down, an amazing thing of nature happened. That God showed his amazing love by sending little fat birds flying in. Now, I read from somewhere, and isn't that the trouble when you get old like us? We don't never remember where we learned what we learned. But somewhere that God's miracles can be natural. That he sent a big wind at a certain time, at just a certain time, and had all those birds come in on that east wind or whatever. And the people could just go and grab those birds, and they could eat them. Now, the kids are going to say, how did they cook them? As I kind of wondered, too. Thought all those 2 million people, how did they cook them? The kids probably won't think, but we mothers and cooks who had to eat, we probably wanted to figure that out. But so they had meat, all the meat they wanted at night. And so they also had that tucked in the mind that bread from heaven was going to come in the morning. How in the world was that ever going to be? But they might have went to bed with that on their mind, but at least their stomachs were full, weren't they? So now about that whole thing, if before COVID, I think it's so much fun. We would put white sheets on the ground and have the kids sit around the perimeter and have them shut their eyes and pretend they're going to sleep, and all these things, and then put the oyster crackers or little somethings and they could eat. I just think, I don't even dare think about that hardly anymore. It's just so different. But I think what we can do is, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have these little cups, and I'm going to, it's something really messy, but you'll have to have some napkins around too. But then have some oyster crackers in there and show them. I might just throw a few, on the ground here to say what it was. But then I'm going to put honey on them, because it says in the Bible that this manna that came tasted like with coriander and honey. And I thought that was, I never thought about that, but what a loving thing that God made it delicious, sweet and good. And so that'll be kind of messy, but I'm putting little drops of honey on there, then giving each one little thing. And I don't know if your schools allow, but something like this at least is a prepared food.
You could put those little cups out on the ground and let them each.
Yeah, we
go
can
to
put it on
one.
the ground, yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I didn't go that far.
I did it yesterday, and we decided we're at desks.
Yeah.
So before they came in, we Lysoled every single desk, and then they went to sleep at their desk.
Yeah.
And I just I opened a box of Frosted Flakes and just put a few on
Oh.
each desk,
Oh,
which had been cleaned and nobody had touched the Frosted Flakes.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then they could find them and eat them, and then I gave them a baggie to take home at the end.
That was good
idea.
because the Bible says they're flakes too, huh? They're little flakes, and that's better than an oyster cracker. That's not exactly a flake. And
Oyster
that's
cracker
sweet.
with honey.
It is what?
Oyster cracker with honey.
Yes,
That's a whole different
that sounds
story.
very delicious.
Yeah.
That's true. But yeah, that's so good. But anyway, the surprise we want to have them get the surprise and the wonder and the amazingness of bread coming down from heaven. And then then there's these little pictures of these people picking up the bread, and Moses had said to them, you take enough for however much you can eat, not more than that. 2 omers would be 2 quarts. That'd probably be a basket full for if I was a mother. It's a lot of manna to eat for a day, but that's that's all they had too, breakfast, lunch, and supper. And then the children would get their own baskets of manna. And then they had received instruction from Moses to not keep any for the next day. But you know how it is, some people didn't pay any attention, and they kept some of theirs, and they turned, and there was all worms in them. So truly, they should have listened to what God commanded. So every morning, people gathered up what they needed, and then when they could eat it, and then when the sun got hot, the manna that was on the ground disappeared. And then every day, they'd go out and gather their manna every day until day 6. And then they gathered double because they wanted to, God had said that you won't pick it up on the Sabbath because that's a day of rest. People said, that it's going to be there. It's been there every morning. It's going to be there. And they went, and there was none. So they learned for the next time, because do you know that God sent this bread from heaven for 40 years, every day except on all the Sabbaths, the days of rest. And so the people went out, and God said, on the day of rest, on the Sabbath, it's you can have your day off. Do you know what the people named this bread that came from heaven? What was it? You tell me.
Manna.
Yes, it was manna, because they said, what is it? When it came down, they saw it and they said, what is it? And then they gave it the name manna. And so now when we ever talk about this wonderful miracle, we say manna was the bread that came from heaven. And then Moses said, you know, one last thing, just to remember God's wonderful love. I would like you to take a pot, and you put some of this manna in the pot, in this special container, and then you're going to keep this container, and we're going to put it in a remembering place. Now, the tabernacle wasn't there yet, but it was a special place that they were going to keep, that people would remember this amazing miracle that God did, how he helped the people and took care of them. And do you think that got worms in it? No, it didn't. That's another miracle, isn't it? That this manna just stayed in the spot. So this is our true story from the Bible, and it's a lesson for us that I could ask you kids, what lesson could you have? And you could just tell me a lot of things what you could learn from this lesson.